Most of us have heard the same line repeated by older people for decades. Keep saving after 65, it's the responsible thing to do. It sounds noble, almost like a badge of honor. But the more you look at it, the more you realize this belief isn't really about responsibility at all. It's about fear, habit, and the comfort of doing what you've always done. Many people cross the threshold into retirement still carrying the mindset they built in their 20s and 30s, those years when saving aggressively actually made sense. But life changes after 65, and pretending it doesn't is exactly where the trouble begins. People get so used to stockpiling money for the future that they forget the calendar has flipped. They forget that the future they spent decades preparing for is happening right now. Yet instead of relaxing into it, instead of breathing and enjoying what they built, they keep grinding, keep worrying, keep tightening their grip on every dollar. The strange thing is, these aren't people who are struggling financially. Many of them have plenty. But they behave as if there's still one missed paycheck away from catastrophe. They shop for the cheapest groceries, deny themselves small joys, and treat every expense like a threat. It's tragic to see people who worked hard their entire lives finally reach retirement, only to put themselves in a new cage made out of old habits. There is a huge difference between saving for security and saving out of fear. By the time someone hits 65, security should largely be settled. The house is often paid off, the debts are either gone or manageable, and retirement funds are already in place. At that stage, continuing to save out of fear isn't financial wisdom, it's emotional inertia. People cling to the comfort of saving because the idea of spending, especially on themselves, feels unfamiliar or even dangerous. It's almost like they've trained themselves to believe that spending is wrong, even when it's for things that could actually improve their quality of life. The real purpose of saving gets lost in all this. Saving was never meant to be the finish line. It was the preparation. The whole point of building wealth wasn't to stare at it for decades or guard it until the last breath. It was meant to buy freedom, comfort, time, and joy. When someone spends their late years refusing to use the money they worked so hard to earn, the cost isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in lost experiences, missed opportunities, and years lived as if enjoyment requires justification. Fear becomes a very expensive luxury, stealing joy long before the money itself is needed. Now, this doesn't mean spending wildly or abandoning common sense. Wisdom doesn't disappear at 65. But there is a massive difference between spending with intention and hoarding from fear. Many retirees don't see that difference because they've spent so long focusing on accumulation that using money feels unfamiliar. It feels like breaking a rule they've lived by for decades. But life after 65 has different rules. Time becomes more valuable than money. Health becomes more delicate. Energy becomes limited. Pretending that the same strategies from age 25 still apply makes no sense. Think about how saving looks across different life stages. In your 20s, saving aggressively is amazing. You have decades ahead for that money to grow. In your 30s, it's sensible, you're building a foundation. In your 40s, saving becomes strategic, you're in your peak earning years. In your 50s, it's essential, you're preparing for the transition ahead. But after 65? That's the moment to harvest what you planted, not scatter more seeds. No farmer goes out in late autumn and plants a field full of new crops. The season has changed. Nature works in cycles and human life does too. Fighting against that rhythm only creates stress. A lot of people continue saving simply because the habit is so deeply ingrained. They've done it for so long that they never stop to question it. Imagine someone at 70 automatically setting aside 10% of their income, not because they truly need to, but because they've always done it. It's a reflex, not a decision. Habit is useful in younger years, but at this stage, habit without thought becomes a quiet form of self-imposed restriction. When someone has earned the right to enjoy life but continues acting like a frightened beginner investor, something has gone wrong, not in their bank account, but in their mindset. The truth is simple. After 65, money should be used to reduce friction, not create more of it. Friction in the form of stress, discomfort, health challenges, and daily inconveniences. Retirement isn't supposed to be a spreadsheet. It's supposed to be a reward for decades of effort. If a person reaches the top of the mountain after climbing for 40 years, what sense does it make to sit there guarding a bag of rocks instead of enjoying the view? The mountain doesn't care. The world doesn't care. And in most cases, your children won't even notice the small financial difference. What they will remember is whether you lived well or lived afraid. Money naturally loses value as a person ages, not economically, but experientially. A dollar at age 30 has enormous potential because it has years to compound and years to be used with strength and health. A dollar at 70 can't deliver the same level of opportunity or enjoyment. It might add a line to an account statement, but it won't add meaning. This is why hoarding money past a certain point becomes irrational. The older someone gets, the more precious time becomes, not cash. And dragging old frugal habits into that period often means sacrificing comfort and health at the exact stage when comfort and health matter the most. The body changes. Energy fades. Little things become harder. Travel becomes more tiring. Food doesn't taste the same. Adventures feel more daunting. What exactly are people saving for at that point? Some imagine they'll suddenly get the chance to do everything they postponed, but biology doesn't always cooperate. The window of possibility narrows year by year. Yet people cling tightly to their wallets as if they'll magically become younger again. It's like an 85-year-old buying a sports car. They waited so long that by the time they get it, they barely have the strength to use it. The more sensible path is to convert money into comfort before comfort becomes difficult or impossible. Use it to remove pain. Use it to make life easier. Spend it on things that enhance dignity, health, and joy. These aren't luxuries at this age, they're necessities. $1 million at 60 has a completely different meaning from $1 million at 90. In one case, it's freedom. In the other, it's paperwork, responsibility, and stress. That's the reality people forget when they cling to savings as if those savings will somehow buy them time. Money can buy many things, but it cannot buy back years. People often underestimate how expensive life becomes with age. Not in an indulgent way, simply because comfort costs more. Traveling requires better accommodations. Eating healthier costs more. Medical needs increase. Support becomes essential. And yet many retirees respond to these changes by cutting expenses even further, tightening their budgets right when their quality of life needs more investment. That isn't wisdom, it's fear disguised as prudence. They sacrifice comfort in the years when comfort is crucial, all for the sake of protecting a pile of money that they may never use. At this phase of life, the real job isn't building wealth anymore. It's allocating it wisely. It's understanding that every year spent sitting on money instead of using it is a year that can't be reclaimed. Dying with too much money isn't a financial failure, but it is a life failure. It means the person misunderstood the purpose of everything they built. They saved for decades but never allowed themselves to enjoy the payoff. They won the game but refused the prize. Much of this comes from the preservation instinct. Humans have an ancient tendency to hold on to resources, especially when we feel vulnerable. Our ancestors needed that instinct to survive real winters, not metaphorical ones. But instincts don't retire just because we do. They stay active, whispering that danger is around every corner, even when the real threats are long gone. At 70 or 80, hoarding money like a squirrel preparing for 10 more winters doesn't make sense when there aren't 10 winters left to prepare for. Yet emotionally, it feels justified, which is why it's so hard to let go. When people are asked what exactly they're saving for late in life, the answers are almost always vague. For emergencies, for the future, just to be safe. But what future? 20 years? 2? Savings are not meant to last forever. They're meant to last as long as you do. And once someone acknowledges the realistic time horizon ahead, a new clarity emerges. Older people shouldn't maximize the number of years ahead, they should maximize the life inside the years they have. That shift changes everything. How money is used, how time is valued, and how priorities fall into place. Another instinct that trips people up after 65 is the desire to leave a legacy. It's a beautiful thought in theory. Give the next generation a financial head start, leave something behind, make their lives easier. But this instinct can quietly turn into a burden if it makes someone feel obligated to shrink their own life for the sake of boosting an inheritance. Many retirees convince themselves they're being noble by cutting back on pleasures, vacations, or support services, all to keep the inheritance untouched. But the truth is more complicated. Children rarely measure their parents' worth by the size of the inheritance. In fact, what they remember most are the experiences, the presents, the love, the wise decisions, not the final balance in the bank. And when a person spends 20 years guarding money that they never allowed themselves to enjoy, the irony is painful. The children might spend that inheritance in a fraction of the time. Many stories show exactly this. Parents denying themselves everything while their heirs eagerly spend on comforts, travel, and home improvements the moment they inherit. Not because they are careless, but because they don't have the emotional baggage their parents carried. They didn't build that money through decades of sacrifice, so they aren't afraid to use it. The parents lived like misers. The children live like normal people. And in the end, the only person who lost joy was the one who originally earned the money. Real legacy isn't about the size of what you leave behind. It's about what you model while you're alive. Children learn far more by watching how their parents live their final decades, whether they live with clarity and confidence, whether they use their resources wisely, whether they prioritize health and connection over unnecessary fear. A parent who spends their late years living well, reducing stress, enjoying time, and taking care of themselves leaves a far deeper and healthier example than one who clings to money as if the size of the inheritance defines their contribution. Another trap is the belief that more money automatically means more security. That might be true for younger people who still have decades of life ahead, unpredictable careers, and major responsibilities. But after 70, true security shifts away from money and moves toward physical health, emotional support, medical access, and social connection. A retiree can have $1 million and still live miserably if they refuse to spend on comfort, refuse to hire help, refuse to upgrade their environment, or refuse to invest in well-being. Security at this age has less to do with having a bigger financial cushion and more to do with removing obstacles that drain energy or create stress. Comfort, safety, and dignity require resources, but they require using those resources, not guarding them endlessly. This leads to a difficult truth. Thrift, which was a virtue in youth and middle age, often becomes self-sabotage after 65. When you're young, saving aggressively opens doors. It creates opportunity. It expands your future. But once someone enters their late years, time becomes the limiting factor, not money. Hoarding resources when your lifespan is narrowing doesn't protect you. It deprives you. It's like holding tightly to a tank of oxygen while drowning. You're protecting the wrong thing. There are so many examples of this. Retirees with seven-figure portfolios still clipping coupons to save a few cents. Widows who take overcrowded buses instead of a comfortable taxi because it's slightly cheaper. Older men sleeping on worn-out mattresses even though they wake up aching every morning. These behaviors aren't thrifty anymore. They're irrational. A comfortable bed is worth infinitely more than an extra interest payment. A reliable car is worth far more than squeezing another year out of a failing old one. A peaceful weekend trip can bring more happiness than keeping a savings account perfectly untouched. At this stage of life, comfort isn't indulgence, it's survival with dignity. Retirement shouldn't feel like a new prison sentence where the only job is protecting your pile of money. It should feel like liberation after decades of effort and responsibility. But too many people swap one form of work for another, spending their final years watching over their accounts with nervous energy. They protect money instead of using money to protect themselves. The truth is, money at 65 or 70 isn't fragile. It's time that becomes fragile. Time to walk easily, time to travel, time to enjoy meals, time to think clearly, time to savor life. Time is the resource that runs out, not dollars. Yet people instinctively guard dollars as if they're the rare commodity. When you break retirement into stages, the reality becomes clearer. The phase from 65 to about 75 is the golden decade. This is when people can still move, travel, taste, think, and enjoy new experiences with relatively little limitation. These 10 years are priceless. Every dollar spent in this window has the highest return in happiness and life satisfaction. This is the period for bucket list experiences, deeper social connections, personal growth, and gentle adventure. This is the time to upgrade comfort, to invest in health, to reduce stress, and to enjoy the freedom that was earned over a lifetime. From 75 to 85, things are still manageable, but the body starts whispering reminders. Slower movement, more aches, more caution. Travel becomes less appealing, long days become more tiring, routines matter more. Money spent in this period should support comfort, convenience, and peace rather than high adventure. It's a different stage, still valuable, but with different priorities. After 85, the focus shifts again. This is the maintenance stage, when energy is limited and the goal is to maximize ease, safety, and quality of care. Most people at this age barely use the money they're saving because they physically can't take advantage of adventures or big experiences. That's why saving aggressively through all three stages makes so little sense. Someone who treats all retirement years the same financially is already making a mistake. The dollars saved at 85 will often remain untouched, while the dollars spent between 65 and 75 create memories, comfort, relief, and joy that truly matter. At the end of the day, the final question every retiree must face is simple. Do you want to die proud of how little you spent, or live proud of how wisely you used what you saved? It's easy to die rich. All you have to do is keep saying no to life. Keep refusing upgrades. Keep avoiding joy. Keep choosing fear. Anyone can do that. What's hard is living well, spending in ways that reduce regret, that lighten the load, that bring happiness, that add meaning, that honor the life you worked so hard to build. A good retirement isn't measured by how much money is left. It's measured by how much stress is removed, how much comfort is gained, and how much peace is created. A dollar spent to reduce pain is a wise investment. A dollar spent to buy time, convenience, or ease is well spent. A dollar spent to improve health is priceless. And a dollar saved out of pure fear is a dollar stolen from the life that still remains. If someone wakes up tomorrow feeling a little lighter, a little happier, a little less burdened because they finally allowed themselves to use their money, that's retirement done right. If they wake up proud simply because they didn't spend anything, they're not truly protecting the future. They're postponing life itself. After 65, the most important financial skill isn't saving more. It's spending well. It's using money as a tool for better living, not as a trophy to guard. In the end, the choice is clear. Spend the final decades living fully, or hold on to money until it outlives you. One path leads to stories, comfort, and joy. The other leads to a full bank account and an empty life. You spent decades building. Now it's time to live.